Happy Wednesday, everybody. Just wanted to check in with you and jump into today's daily devotion. I was reading in Acts and I was thinking about, the term good news. It's so easy as believers to talk about the term good news. And the good news is the gospel. It's the understanding that Jesus dying on the cross, paying the price for humanity's sin, bearing the weight of all of it, restoring a relationship with God. The crazy thing about that is, and this is why it's good news, is that God cared more about restoring the relationship than he did people following the law. And I set the law in place so that we would have something to go by, to understand how we are to treat each other and how we interact and how we remain people of character and with integrity. But I was thinking about this whole process of the good news, and one of the things that God wants to give us is the ability to share the good news. And I was reading Acts 17, and it just struck me that when Paul and Silas and Timothy were traveling, that how many times when they would share the good news, there was two things that would happen. One, they had people who resisted and fought and would chase them out of town and would stir up trouble. One verse specifically said, "But many of the Jews were motivated by bitter jealousy and formed a large mob out of troublemakers, unsavory characters, and street gangs to incite a riot. They set out to attack Jason's house, for he had welcomed the apostles into his home. The mob was after Paul and Silas and sought to take them by force and bring them out to the people. When they couldn't find them, they took Jason instead, along with some of the brothers in his house church." And I just thought that was so profound, is that how often does that happen when we begin to share the good news, when we begin to operate in faith and we're excited about what God is doing in our life and we know someone needs Jesus and we share it with them, and then the enemy comes after us and wants to destroy us, and the fact is, when he can't get to us, it seems like he attacks everything around us. Maybe not in this manner, but as we go on down, we see again that there's these angry shouts stirred up the crowds and troubled the city. And in fact, is at this point in time, they left town. But every time that happened, everywhere that they went, Thessalonica, Berea, Athens, when Paul they would go into the synagogue. And the other thing that really struck me was this wasn't like a one time, like they would go in, spend 5 minutes sharing the good news and sharing the gospel, sharing the love of Jesus, sharing the story of the cross and the price of the cross and God's love for humanity. It wasn't just that. It wasn't a 5-minute conversation. It wasn't an hour. It wasn't a sermon for 45 minutes on a Sunday morning. At one point in time, Paul spends 3 weeks in the synagogue sharing the good news. There was another day where they spent several days sharing the good news. And we see it says that Paul taught them truth. A large number of Jews became believers in Jesus, along with quite a few influential Greek women and men. And we saw different ways. There was one where people thirsted. They were hungry for truth, and they desired knowledge and wisdom. And then you had others who they really didn't desire any of that. But at the end of the day, all mankind, all humanity has a desire in their heart to know truth and to be presented with hope, as well as an eternity that doesn't involve pain and suffering and ugliness, but rather is restoration to fullness and peace. And so I just want to encourage you. God wants to give you the ability to share the good news. He wants you to share the good news. He has prepared you to share the good news, and you will have resistance. But there are those who need to hear it. They're hungry for it, and God is ready to use you to do so. So have a blessed day, and we will see you soon.